importation. And that's one of the things that's weakening our naira. Why are we not producing? Why do you think it's so option line? And even where the industry...
This current administration of Bola Tinubu is something else.
Let's talk about the circumstances which you
the recent hike in the pump price of petroleum products. This has caused lots of
you're harassed.
Different
Nigerians
are really
it's difficult to harass me. I'm immune to harassment. I'm very calm in the face of
human rights activists.
To survive, they are not interested in producing. As Peter Obi put it, the ruling class is more interested in consumption. To think about utilizing, engaging in developing the manufacturing sector, it is not of interest to them. They are prepared to play the role of what we call the comprador bourgeoisie, just taking the crumbs from the tables of the imperialists. They are prepared, they are happy, they are contented being the errand boys of a big international capital. So that is the problem. They are not interested in governance in the interest of the people. The Constitution provides that government shall own and control the major sectors of the economy so as to abolish poverty as stipulated in Section 15, sub 5 of the Constitution. But they are interested. They are prepared to cede the responsibility of government to the private sector to provide jobs. From their point of view, it is the responsibility of government. To provide health care, it is the responsibility of government. To provide education, it is the responsibility of government. In actual fact, recently, there is a statement which I downloaded and printed from the website of the presidency, wherein they have put for sale all tertiary institutions in the country. Universities, polytechnics, colleges of education. They are inviting the private sector, domestically and internationally, to come and buy the government-owned tertiary institutions. So the ruling class in Nigeria appears to be an irresponsible, ruining class. I call them ruining class rather than ruling class, because they are not prepared to accept responsibility for public good, for education, for water, for jobs, for housing. Everything, they are putting it on the private sector. And the private sector intervention, private sector individuals and companies are not philanthropists. They want to make money. And when institutions, tertiary institutions are sold, universities, polytechnics, and colleges of education, only the children of the rich will be able to access education.
Mr. Borisade, if I may come in here, well, there's this school of thought that believes that the politicians are just a reflection of the society of Nigeria. You talked about the private sector, they just want to make money. So if someone from the private sector gets into office, the next thing he wants to do is to also make money. And so the corruption continues to perpetuate itself. So at what point do we say enough is enough? Can the society...
No.
Yes.
We should reject that practice, that perspective, because those who contest to come into public office, they do so on the basis of Section 4 of 2B of the Constitution. Section 14 of 2B of the Constitution provides that security and welfare of the people, the primary purpose of government. Therefore, government is not about making money. Government is of the individuals in power But unfortunately, the moment politicians get to power, first they campaign the people, but the moment they are in public office, they use public office against. That is what we must fight against. And that is why all over the country, against the increase in the fuel price, to the point that people are saying they agree. You are in power not to implement policies and programs to feed us, to opportunities for job. In actual fact, according to the Constitution, government has a responsibility to either provide jobs or provide unemployment. Government has a responsibility to pay a national minimum living wage and allow people to go hungry. So hungry, a being power in Yoruba, in Hausa, Yuwa, and in Igbo, the same thing.
I'll leave them out. But
Thank you very much.
I want us to be able to talk more about where we are. I mean, listening to you, of course, we've heard the, and just so we can get that protest where against the removal of time. We did hear many people talk about how it is corrupt. It's not helping the country. This is the idea. How do we get, okay, now we are where we are. And I think someone said they're going to put that thing next to my face somewhere. We are, here we are. This is the situation now, is the way forward. Because we can't change the past. I can't go back. We can't go back, change anything that's already happened. What should happen now? Fuel subsidy regime come back? Should the jigging of the Tinubu cabinet? Where do we go from here?
First of all, about fuel subsidy. In reality, there is no basis for subsidy. If we read corruption, subsidy is just subsidizing corruption. I gave the example 1994 under Abacha. Question about subsidy. The problem is that prepared to ensure that we refine crude oil in government, and that is what we must insist they do. Rather than imposing economic hardship on the people while they are living large, we are saying that those in power should develop oriented philosophical perspective. Rather, they are living large. In a situation in which they say the economy is hard, we have a situation, a new jet for $150 million. Presidential yacht of 5 cars for the first 5 billion to renovate 21 naira. For the National Assembly, 160 million committee made up of less than 20 persons, 5 billion naira. Decoration of event for the phone, $250 million. Yes, it's been increased. There are no jobs, electricity tariff. So we must insist should be guided on 14(2)(b) of the Constitution. Security people shall be the primary purpose of a government fails to actualize Section 14 Constitution. Then the solution lies in the people resorting to the Provision 40 of the Constitution, which I call a peaceful revolt, provision peacefully and protect peacefully that government should be sensitive. Unfortunately, as we have seen of the Constitution, those who protested, some of them, and for treason and terrorism. But peaceful protest under the Constitution, fundamental right, it can never amount to treason. Peaceful protest can never amount to terrorism. So in my own opinion, any government that is unable to govern in accordance with Section 14(2)(b) of the Constitution has lost all in power. And for as long as people protest peacefully, they have a right to say that particular government policies or reserve. It is within fundamental right to so do. Protest peacefully.
Well, thank you very much. That the things that got us here. One of the questions that I've always asked is along the line of the fact that the people who are in government today were not in government for. In fact, I mean, when you're talking about the fact Nigerians, they tend to enjoy or tends to imported stuff as opposed to or facilitating production in the country. Speech I read, I find it again, of Chief Obafemi Awolowo before addressing students in the UK, Nigerian students in the UK, that their leaders preferred imported stuff as opposed to produced stuff. So it seems like a systemic thing. And irrespective of whichever is into power, it would seem like it's either we do that or we really look for do something. Do you see, how do you see your case of patriotism? Where no matter where you are in the country, be it at the federal level, Nigeria before your pocket. Do you see?
If ordinary people insist that governance is about their interest, for now, governments government has been hijacked. It is a conspiracy against the interest of, and that is why we must insist that imported their stock at their own expense. They may do so. The moment you are in power, the moment you are in public, waste public resources. In 2000, Chief Gani contested to be president of Nigeria. I contested to be governor of Oyo State. At the same time, Femi Falana contested to be governor of Ekiti State. Zaki Obayuwana contested to be governor of Edo State. Current governor of Kaduna State also contested to be governor of Kaduna. The point, we signed an undertaking Chief Ganifai at his own expense for medical treatment. At his own expense. Moment, if he were elected as president of Nigeria, he will seek medical treatment in government-owned hospitals. And that will compel government to commit resources to transforming the public public hospitals. The undertaking also included that our children, that we will not use generator to provide electricity. So these were some of the points that were contained in that undertaking. Today, the story is different. Those in power to embark on medical tourism, neglecting ordinary people to the collapsed healthcare system. My suggestion would be that it should be incorporated into the position you wish to contest for. Whatever office you may give office or officer, only earn the national minimum living wage, whatever the figure may be. Those who are not prepared to earn the national minimum wage should not dare to contest. When I contested governor, I did so on a program of a governor on a worker's wage. So these are the kinds of policies adopt in order to discourage people only want to serve their pockets. Not to discourage people who want to use public office, public good.
Richard, just once, one other thing, perhaps in that same line, I've been wondering how come now, because you see, for me, whatever government is doing, only about the president, one was calling Jonathan's name, everyone was calling Buhari's name, was Obasanjo. Everybody calls only the president. No one is, well, we rarely call out the governors and them. Any time we have elections, the governors, we always have governors. No matter what the president is doing, because it's only after, you know, Chief Obasanjo left government, oh, he really did well. He did this and he did this and he did that. That this guy is in office now and then there is a problem. We praise our presidents only when they have the governors. The state governments, they are the ones that are supposed to cascade some of the initiatives of the federal government to their states. In 2021, the federal government came up with this initiative of economic sustainability. And part of the initiatives there was that in partnership with the states, government should do this, the government should do that. Buhari said, I think it was in 2019 or thereabout, that in partnership with the states, 100 million Nigerians out of poverty in partnership with the states. Do you see that partnership between federal government and state governments happen?
I think that is a very good idea. Governments, federal government ought to pursue. There ought to be a consensus that resources should be budgeted for the critical basic needs of ordinary before they talk about their greed. So on a national basis, as resources for healthcare, for government companies, and so on, electricity, and so on, roads, education, whatever is now left, that in paying salaries who occupy public office. But today, those who are prioritize their greed over the needs of ordinary. And that reversal should be that there should be a national consensus on the priorities so that anybody may come from, regardless of where access to education as provided under Section 18, sub 3, should be guaranteed. Free education here. I agree that is the path government ought to pursue, but they are not pursuing that.
Now,
they are not interested in that.
Space. I remember this president, when he hosted some people in the presidential villa, was addressing them, and I think it was the traditional rulers, to call out the governors concerning local government administrations. Now, the reason I'm asking this question with our eyes squarely on administration is that when we expect one human being to do whatever it is that we expect him for, by the Constitution, at the end of the day, one human being cannot almost one of these departments and agencies as well as corporations of the government. But then we also have 3 tiers of government. We have local government administration that at the time was saying to his guests, turning the local government administrations, that happening. How do you see the various traditional rulers, the various community development houses holding their state governors account, particularly administrations, which the federal government has won a case at the Supreme Court about?
I agree with you. Absolutely. Is that challenge, challenging into account those who are governing at lower levels of government at the state, and that is a challenge that faced not only because the traditional rulers, may not have the capacity to advise chairmen of local governments, because live at their pleasure. Governors and chairmen of local governments, their salaries and they are orderly respected, but civil society more in holding state governments, local governments to account, particularly now in the context of the judgments of the Supreme that has tried to salvage the local governments, the control of governors in terms of allocations to the local government. I'm aware that the local government, they prefer enslavement, or they don't need the freedom. But also the manner in which they get to office. Many of them is on the basis of the supporterism of the governor. It may be difficult to go against the governor. In natural, they may just receive their allocation and just hand it over to the governor, asking the governor to direct them. If we're discussing Nigeria's
matter, we need more time. We need a lot of time. We fully understand all the news. Unfortunately, that's where we have to wrap up with you this morning. Hopefully, we have conversations with you soon. Thank you so much for the program this morning.
Very much.
Femi Aboishade, the author and legal practitioner. We'll go on a commercial. And at the top of the hour, we have Bill on Sunrise Day, so please. Welcome back. A lot has happened in the the Tinubu administration is giving over 100 billion, 131 billion for the floods in states in the country. And then, of course, we also heard from the Zamfara, what I keep saying Zamfara, the Borno State governor yesterday, saying what is given to them, to handle the flood situation in Borno. Kano State talking about how many people floods since January, 49 people dead. In Kaduna State, there's also a local government area. It's cut off 5 communities. So what's happening? Usually when the rains come, it's a sort of we've done since the last rain. The issue is you get a bailout, just keeps moving on until next year. Then we now hear of another flood and another bailout. And the way it is handled in Nigeria will be our focus this month. Mr. Femi Aboishade, author, and Shana, welcome to the program. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks very much for having me.
So, conversation this morning with your views on how governance and administration. Where would you rate it right now?
Big question. I think, first of all, fundamentally understand the philosophical perspective of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to governance. Understanding, we need to pay attention to a speech he made as on the 31st July 2023. Statement. He said he was aware, fitting it, that is aware that people are going through tough times, but that there is no alternative. In other words, to imposition hardship. But the Ahmed Tinubu may also be deduced, made in 2012. Saturn increased fuel price. Then Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu explained a wicked policy. He said to tossing people into the midnight sea. It reflected the capital that the government of President Jonathan wanted to favor. The class of people President Jonathan wanted to support. And that fuel pricing was increased the hardship on the people. The political decision to favor a particular class of people. President Bola Ahmed rating three that there is no alternative to economic, means that it is a deliberate policy of his government to punish the people with economic policies being implemented by the regime. A background upon which we can assess all the policies of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. That understanding is important. The policies are deliberately made to favor what he called European friends of President Jonathan, as against helping.
The Tinubu administration is doing right now as well, same thing that he accused former President Jonathan of doing.
I'm using it in explaining the policies of President Jonathan to explain the policies being implemented by Ahmed Tinubu.
Well, for many people from the presidency, when they listen to Nigerians, and of course people like you as well, about his policies and how these policies have impoverished or reduced the quality of life of Nigeria, one of the major things they keep talking about is how these were difficult to be made, and that we should be ways ahead, but we are heading to El Dorado, and that we should be patient. This is ultimately pull our country out of years of decay that could have destroyed our nation. Hold on.
And I will further as far as similar policies, the same policy really of President Jonathan. He said, and permit me just to read. He said, the poor, the people, rather than saving money. He said that this is a statement he made. However, I'm quoting him now in 2012. The distance between and the people is far, and genuine government sees no utility continuing to spend money on the people. In their mind, the people are not worth the money. Government sees more value than in saving the hard-pressed masses. That was President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in 2012. And he went further. Yeah, actually save this measure. The country that has the unfettered ability its own currency, needing to save the currency, an anachronism. And he said, for attempting to save in that very currency, defend against bankruptcy in that currency is a relic of the past. So President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a very clear-headed that understands the implications, is why government implement certain policies.
I mean, I'm trying to soak it all in, as you say, but I want to be able to talk a little bit about fuel subsidy removal.
Do you like this video?